want to pick your brain some more on recruiting because it is the bye week, and I know a lot of the coaches are flying around the state of Florida right now to close in on this big class that we had thus far for 2024. Jameer Grimsley, I want to give you some credit here because that name has been surging lately in talks with Florida. But I think we dropped it here first on Hightop Sports, Mr. Connor Clark. You dropped this like 2 months ago. Now, nobody's going to say that, but you threw that name out there when nobody was even thinking about it. Like the day he committed to Alabama, you're like, hey, Jameer Grimsley's still on the list. And now it's humming. So talk to us about Jameer Grimsley. We got Jordan Seaton. We got Zay Mincy, obviously. He's not supposed to commit till I think like January, February. TJ Moore was a name that's starting to come back up around, who's a wide receiver committed to wide. We've got a lot of names that we need to know, but we got to close strong here. Talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, so from the very beginning, Florida really, really liked where they sat with Jameer Grimsley before he committed to Alabama. Obviously, Alabama did a great job of securing that commitment, but Corey Raymond, Billy Napier were never going to stop recruiting him after he committed to Alabama. He's a Tampa kid. He's close to home. So they were always going to continue to pursue him. Now, I'm not saying that a flip is imminent or anything like that, but he's going to be recruited all the way until the very end. His teammate, like you just said, Tampa Catholic, TJ Moore. Clemson kids don't typically decommit, don't typically flip, but that is somebody that Florida's going to continue to recruit. They've got some really good, small, fast receivers in Isaiah Williams, Jere Hawkins, TJ Abrams. They want one of those bigger-bodied guys to go with this class. Obviously, you're going to continue to recruit Jeremiah Smith all the way up until he signs on the dotted line, but I mean, that's pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered to Ohio State unless Brian Hartline decides to leave. So you got guys like TJ Moore. Cam Michael's another name that they really like out of the state of Georgia. I know Georgia was recruiting him at cornerback. Florida likes him at receiver. Several other schools are going to continue to recruit that young man as well. And then, of course, Cam Coleman, the Texas A&M wide receiver commit from Alabama. Really, really good kid. I know Auburn's really still trying to recruit him pretty hard. He's on Florida's radar. I don't know that they're really pushing very hard for him. They like a couple of the other guys as well, and a couple of the other guys are closer to home. TJ Moore was really that guy that Florida really thought they had a great shot for before he announced his commitment to Clemson. Another kind of situation where
we had you on it shortly after that.
Me?
Yeah, like it was a hard miss. You were like, that was a tough one. I felt like Florida had a good relationship.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it was Florida and Clemson at the top of his recruitment. He even named Florida his leader at one point during the process, and then he takes his official visit to Clemson and shuts it down before he even takes an official visit to Florida. So that's kind of the catch-22 where sometimes you do want to be the last visit, but you also want to make sure you don't not get a visit.
Sure.
So it's one of those things that you got to play around with fill out the kid and this, that, and the other. So, I mean, TJ Moore is somebody that I was very high on before Florida even offered him. I was like, man, this is a kid that Florida really needs to get in on. He's a stud, 6'3", 190 pounds, good speed, good route running, great hands.
How big is TJ?
Clemson got themselves a fantastic player, 6'3".
Okay, so and Jere Hawkins and Isaiah are like this. They're like around the 5'11", 6 foot size.
Jere Hawkins is 5'9".
Okay, even smaller.
Isaiah Williams is 6 foot.
Okay.
And TJ Abrams is about 5'10", 5'11".
Okay.
So they want to get one of those bigger bodied receivers to go with this really small and fast wide receiver class. But yeah, I mean, as far as wide receiver goes, that's pretty much it on that front.
Yeah, that would be huge to again add some size to the sides because I think Ricky kind of provides that right now. We've got Arlos that has the size as well. Caleb Douglas, he's a big boy. I met him at the spring game, so we have some size there. But look, I mean, Eugene Wilson, we saw what he's been able to do with his speed. And I don't know if you saw the show with Stephen Harris on Monday, who is the coach of Isaiah Williams, who recently received an offer to Texas. I asked him, like, hey, should we be worried? He goes, nah, he's feeling pretty good. So if you want to put that in your notebook, I mean, by all means, go ahead. Just providing some recruiting insight for you, Connor.
hey, man. Well, so the biggest thing with Isaiah Williams and why he committed to Florida is because sophomore year he was playing at Wiregrass Ranch with a wide receiver named Bryson Rogers, who Florida was recruiting really hard. He ended up signing with Ohio State. After his sophomore year, going into his junior season, he broke his collarbone. Florida did not back off on his recruitment. They continued to recruit him all the way through that process of his healing from the collarbone, and that was huge for him. He was somebody that was like, hey, listen, I really, really appreciated that Florida didn't back off on me. They continued to recruit me hard when other schools backed away and said, hey, we want to see you as a senior. Obviously, Texas has now seen him as a senior, has come in and offered, but Florida establishing that relationship, maintaining that relationship, and then, of course, securing his commitment has done a fantastic job with his process, and I don't see him going anywhere. He can go take his visit to Austin, Texas, enjoy his time out there, which these kids, and I can't stand the fans that are like, no, these kids should never take a visit after they commit. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. These kids only get recruited one time, maybe twice if you hit the transfer portal, depending on how your career goes. But man, enjoy the process, take your visits, go have a good time. But I mean, a lot of these kids know that Florida is where they want to be. I always like to use the example of when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was a recruit at Florida. He was committed to Miami, then flipped to Florida, backed off, then recommitted to Florida. Once he recommitted to Florida, he was locked in. But he went and visited Alabama. He went and visited LSU. He went and visited Georgia. But nobody was worried about him flipping his commitment because he was so vocal on social media. And he was just enjoying his recruiting process, going to Alabama LSU that year, which was the game of the year. He went to like LSU Georgia or something like that. Like he went to some big time games because he wanted to go enjoy football. And a lot of these
Yeah.
kids just want to go enjoy their visits. You don't get the opportunity to take these trips out to Eugene, Oregon, Austin, Texas. I mean, Columbus, Ohio is not really a great place to go visit, but it's a cool football atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I will never tell a kid, hey, don't take your visit, or I'll never get mad at a kid for taking a visit, because you get one opportunity to go through this. Let these kids enjoy it. And if they really want to be at Florida, they'll really be at Florida.
Yeah, and I think that goes back. Like, we're fans. We love to go to the games. If we can go to a game for free, we're gonna take it.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, like when it comes down to it, it's like I see it all over Twitter too. People get so worried when like a kid takes a visit and all that. But I'll ask you this, Connor. What happens when a kid says, "Hey, I'm shutting down my recruitment," and then they go take visits anyway? What happens there?
Man, it's high school kids being high school kids.
That's what I
They'll tell
thought.
you one day they're 100% committed to folding their laundry, and then the next day they'll be like, you know what, I don't really feel like putting my socks away today. So, it's just one of those things. It's high school kids, man. They can tell you, and they very well could be 100% committed. Doesn't mean they can't go take visits. They can go take a visit and still be 100% committed to the program that they're committed to. So, I mean, it is what it is. We're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-old kids here. So, I mean, cut them some slack, man. They're
Think
just
about
having
when
a
you
good
were a
time.
kid and had all your girlfriends. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't stay committed to one relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Man, at 23 years old, I got the opportunity to go up and watch Clemson in Death Valley. Like, I'm not a recruit that's getting wined and dined the whole time. So why would I not go do that for free? Why would these kids not go do that for free?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like if you got the opportunity to do it, it's like, yeah, my recruitment shut down, but I'm still going to this game. It's a badass game.
well, think about it. Their entire life thus far has been grinding, working to have the opportunity to play in a big time atmosphere. And then think about it, they're going to go immediately from that year to playing in some of the atmospheres, not all, to hopefully straight to the NFL and never truly get to enjoy the show they're putting on. It's much different on the field than in the fans. I mean, I've never played on the field, obviously, but being a fan at a game is something special too. It really, really is. Obviously, playing is a whole nother level, but I think being able to sit back and just soak it all in, like, wow, it's a different experience. So yeah, it's cool. I think we're all on the same page of like, have fun, go enjoy it. And look, if we are going to be afraid of them going elsewhere, we never had them closed anyways. It'd be like your wife going out to a dinner. If you're worried about her cheating on you, bitch, she love your ass anyways. You know what I'm saying? You ain't doing nothing. You doing something wrong at home if you're afraid of her leaving. Like, baby, go out and get yourself some free drinks. I know you're coming home to me. No big deal. So I do want to ask.
Man. That's the big thing. You wanna get the kids that the big dogs are fighting for, but you don't want to fight the big dogs for them.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Chauncey Bowens is a name that that's been coming back up, and that's, I don't know how people feel about it after he ditched us for Georgia, but I know there's been some big names looking to visit for that Arkansas weekend. Is that a name that we should keep an eye out for, or is that just smoke and mirrors?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I think Chauncey's happy with his commitment to Georgia. He's been very vocal about recruiting other guys to come with him. Would Florida? I mean, I think he would be a great addition back to Florida's class. I thought he was a fantastic player when he committed,
Sure.
and obviously Georgia did too because they worked hard to flip him.
Sure.
But I think he's pretty locked in with the Bulldogs, and I think Florida will look elsewhere to try and add another running back to the class.
You think Jarek's still on that list? Gibson?
Yeah, I think he's somebody you have to continue to recruit. He's a Gainesville kid. They'll recruit him all the way up until he signs, but I think he's pretty locked in with Texas.
Okay.
Someone that they just offered recently, Kawan Lacey, who's a Nebraska commit out of Texas. Really, really good running back. I really like that young man's film. They offered him, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
They're in the process of trying to get him on campus. And if they do, I think Florida's got a decent shot. And then Jaden Baugh is another one that's an Arkansas commit. He is from the state of Georgia. I think he's pretty locked in with Arkansas, but they're still kicking the tires on him as well.
Make sure I got one last recruit name that I want to toss at you. But Connor Clark, tell them where they can find you, man. Again, it's always a pleasure. I always appreciate you coming on here and always rock and roll. And tell the wife thank you again for letting us steal you for half an hour, man. I do appreciate it. But tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just Twitter, really. Only social media I use heavy. And it's at Connor Clark, Connor with an E, Clark with an E at the end.